Hello, thanks everybody for showing up. I want to take everybody on a journey from today's traditional ransomware to what the future of ransomware looks like when it becomes agentic AI, what you need to know, how you need to defend yourself above and beyond how you defend yourself against ransomware today. If you haven't met me, I'm Roger Grimes. I'm the data-driven defense evangelist you know before. I've been doing cybersecurity for 36 years. I've written 15 books and over 1,500 magazines articles on it, including a book on ransomware. The Ransomware Protection Playbook is one of my best-selling books over the last couple of years, although it doesn't have anything about this agentic AI in there. Actually, it does, but just very little, just like a paragraph or something. And instead of this talk being the whole thing about it. So the way that it's going to flow again is we're going to talk quickly about traditional ransomware and trends. We're going to talk about what AI is and what agentic AI is, and then we'll go into agentic AI malware and ransomware, and then the defenses you can take against it that you need to teach your end users about. Traditional ransomware, a person's connected to the internet. Typically, they get tricked, they get socially engineered into downloading a Trojan horse program, and they click on a link of a link of a link, or they get sent an email and they click on that link, or they download a file, or maybe they have unpatched software or firmware. But either way, this Trojan horse program gets inside their computer. It typically modifies the host system so that it can live through a reboot, collects all the passwords it can on the computer out of the browser, password storage cache, sends it upline over the internet to its CNC, its command and control servers. It gets instructions about what it should do next. It downloads additional malware. It re-encrypts itself to keep ahead of the antivirus detection tools and all of that. And then if you're connected to a corporate network, it will try to find some sort of master password, maybe in a patch management service or something like that, where it gets full admin access to the entire network, and goes around and exploiting and infecting all the different computers on the network, connecting as many passwords as it can. Eventually, the hacker group, ransomware group, logs into the command and control center computers, finds out what are a list of the new hosts, the new computers, new networks that the ransomware bots have broken into. They'll come in and take a look around. They'll come in and assess, analyze the target. Maybe they'll look to see if you have cyber insurance, and if so, they'll find out how much they can get out of you according to the cyber insurance. They will almost always look for confidential data, critical data. They'll look through critical emails and stuff, and they will do data exfiltration. They'll take passwords, steal whatever they want, and then eventually, if they're that type of ransomware gang, because believe it or not, 40% of ransomware gangs do not encrypt anymore. They just steal your data. But if they're the typical traditional type of ransomware, they will launch some sort of encryption task, or encrypt a bunch of computers and ask for a ransom to decrypt. The bigger question to most people is how does most ransomware get into environments? This is a white paper I wrote. It's been a few years ago, but I downloaded and collected every report I could find that actually told you how the ransomware got into the different companies it was successfully attacking. And this is the chart I came up with, and you can see that at least half of all ransomware attacks was due to social engineering, which at first I remember being a little surprised because social engineering overall, ransomware and everything else, is involved in about 70 to 90% of successful hacking attacks. I was a little surprised it was only 50% of ransomware attacks, and unpatched software was the next biggest cause, I guess, or close to it, with 23% of attacks. In general, unpatched software and firmware is involved in about 33% of all successful attacks. But I was a little surprised that social engineering was only involved in 50% of ransomware attacks, except for then I realized that if you look at some of the other attacks, like credential theft, how did the hackers get the credentials? How did they steal the credentials? Probably social engineering. According to IBM, 79% of credential theft is due to social engineering. RDP, which is remote desktop protocol, that means the attackers are logging on remotely to these servers using Microsoft Remote Desktop Protocol. Typically, they're either doing password guessing, or usually they have the password. Again, how they get the password, usually social engineering. And third parties, if you got infected because of a third party, how did the third party get infected, compromised? Usually social engineering, unpatched software. So when I added that all together, I went, oh, that makes sense. You really can take a lot of these other types of attacks, like credential theft is not really an attack, it's the outcome of a successful attack. Like ransomware, is not necessarily an attack, it's an outcome of an attack. How did the attacker get into your device, your network, your environment in the first place? Typically social engineering, but also usually could be unpatched software, firmware, and everything else is a smaller percentage of the cases. Most ransomware now does what's called double extortion. I like to call it like quintuple extortion. Starting in November 2019 and now later, now it's very, very common. Most ransomware, when it breaks in, before it encrypts stuff, will steal all the passwords and credentials that it can from the business, from employees, from customers that may log on to that network. So like if your employees are going to like Amazon to buy toilet tissue or something, so it's waiting for them when they get home, or going Instagram or their stock account or bank account, the ransomware is listening for those passwords and getting those passwords and stealing them. They also, again, ransomware very commonly will steal intellectual property, and data. They'll download emails. They'll look to see what is the most confidential damaging data that it could access and export, exfiltrate outside the company and take it. That's a big part of what they do today. They will sometimes threaten the victim's employees and customers. If they can't get paid by the victim company, they'll actually go to the victim company's employees and say, hey, if you don't pay us, we're going to spread your passwords around or something, or even customers. Like there was a plastic surgeon that got broken into. He didn't pay the ransomware fine. So the ransomware gang said to all the plastic surgery customers, hey, we've got your before and after pictures. We know who had a facelift and who had a breast lift or something like that. And they said, we got the pictures to prove it. And if you don't pay us, we're releasing those pictures out on the internet, the before and after pictures. So that was an amazing threat. And many times if the victim company doesn't pay, they publicly shame them. And they literally, the ransomware companies have their own Instagram sites and dark websites and even Facebook sites where they share who they've broken into and whether or not they got paid the ransom or not. All of this is to say that a good backup does not save you from all the double extortion stuff. A good backup allows you to recover from encryption, but all this other stuff, which is very, very common today. As a matter of fact, it's over 90% of cases. I've seen all kinds of stats about this. They've all been growing over time. The smallest number I see is about 90%. I see figures around 91%, 92%, or in this case, 96%. From this other from Arctic Wolf saying that exfiltrated data is exfiltrated in over 96% of the cases, almost all of them. So if you get hit by a ransomware event that is only encrypting your data and didn't also steal your data first, count yourself lucky. That's one of the old dumb ones there. Ransomware payments by quarter been going slightly kind of down lately. The average ransomware payment, they're saying it's a little bit over $500,000, although the median ransomware payment was a lot smaller, around $100,000. And that's really because people that do pay the ransom, it's really common for the ransom to be over $1 million. And if it's not $1 million, it usually is like below $100,000. Usually there's this big split 50-50 with larger and larger ransomware payments overall. But there was a slight decrease a year or two ago in 2023, 2024, but it seems to be going back up in 2025. Although this is a good note that only about a quarter of victims are paying the ransom overall. You can see that, back in 2019, it was like 80% of victims paid the ransom. That's because none of us had the good backups that we thought we did, or we didn't protect them from being corrupted by the ransomware gangs. But over the years, most of us have gotten really good backup policies and procedures. And so today, only about a quarter of the victims pay the ransom. Although, interesting enough, about 40% of the organizations that get hit with data exfiltration only pay the ransom. This today, a lot of ransomware gangs don't encrypt the data at all. They just find the most critical data, exfiltrate it, and say, if you don't pay it, we're releasing this publicly on the web, which I guess could be considered a data breach, although really it's a data breach before they release the data because you're letting hackers get your data. Or they could say that we're going to use the data against you, use it against your customers, give it to a competitor. Either way, remember I just said that only about a quarter of ransomware victims are paying the ransom. But if you get stuck in a ransomware attack where they only exfiltrate data, DXF, about 41% of those victims are paying the ransom. So higher than than the people that get hit by encrypting ransomware, which is just a strange thing to think about. According to IBM, the average data breach, usually from ransomware, costs $4.45 million, but we know that we're seeing higher and higher ransom costs and recovery costs. The most expensive one I know of is Change Healthcare. When Change Healthcare got hit by a ransomware attack last year, it cost them nearly $2.5 billion in recovery and lost customers and things like that. That's just pretty insane. So now we're going to go into talking about, that was traditional ransomware. Now we're going to talk about the agentic AI and then move on to agentic AI malware and ransomware and all that sort of stuff. But to understand what agentic AI is and agentic AI ransomware is, you need to understand what is artificial intelligence. So let me say that anybody trying to define any of these terms and saying this is the official definition, it's not. There's no such thing as an official definition in these cases. But it's like trying to define these things, like trying to define nail Jello to a wall. But I'm going to give you the best descriptions I can think of now. They may be updated at a later date, but artificial intelligence is a system or service that is able to perform tasks that simulate human intelligence when learning, reasoning, and very important decision making. All of those are very, very important components on there. Although I've got a good friend of my mentor, Lauren Cohnfelder. This is, what does this human intelligence mean, right? Human intelligence, like a smart person, like an average person, just on particular tasks. What is, how do we measure human intelligence by IQ or something? I don't know. But I thought that was, an interesting thing. We don't really even know what human intelligence means, but I guess we can say that AI is a system or service that is trying to perform tasks that simulate average human intelligence, whatever that may mean, when learning, reasoning, and decision making. I think AI became a term that everybody knew and started to use just a couple of years ago. In 2022, in October of 2022, a company called OpenAI released what's called a large language model chatbot, ChatGPT, for the first time. And that just it became so wildly successful. It took over the world. They had 100 million subscribers in like a month or two. But what an LLM does is that it's kind of like you know, it's a engine that searches and scours the internet or a data source of some sort, collects a whole bunch of information, whole lot of documents, whole lot of videos, whole lot of pictures. So it scours the internet or whatever its source is, and it brings that information in, and then that along with some instructions of how to, treat something called algorithms, like maybe how to summarize a document, how to make a new picture. There's always these algorithmic instructions that coders have put in there, the algorithmic coders. They consume this large data set. It then updates its algorithms based upon, or could update its algorithms, but update its learning decision-making capability based upon what it learned as it scoured the internet. And then you can ask it questions, prompts, and things like that, and it will give you a result. So again, large language model is a big part of agentic AI. And what it means, again, is that you have this large language model with algorithms that gets all this data. It could be data sources off the internet. It could be even local data sources that you just use in your house or your company. There's somebody, a user or another system that is prompting that LLM for something like, create this picture of a dog holding a drink, or can you summarize this particular paper on AI for me, or things like that. People prompt the LLM, the AI LLM, and then it outputs new content, pictures, audio, video, or whatever. LLMs just really have taken over the world, and cause the stock market to go up and people to go crazy. And certainly LLMs, if you have any sort of future, what we call agentic AI, LLM is a key component that it has to have. And right now, let me say that there's a lot of attacks going up against LLMs, or what I call AI versus AI. Remember, the way that an LLM works is by collecting information, off the internet or from different data sources. And today we already have attackers, especially Russians, that are trying to poison the data sources of all their different LLMs. So, and this just one report here, it said that Pravda, uh, a Russian front, put out Russian propaganda, 3.6 million Russian propaganda articles that then got sucked up and pulled into our various LLMs and have now incorporated the Russian propaganda into Western AI systems, infecting the response to false claims and propaganda. So, if you were to ask about, I don't know, in this case, the Ukraine war or something like that, you're potentially going to get a lot different answer than if they didn't spread 3.6 million documents around the internet poisoning LLMs. So just kind of wild that we're already seeing these attacks where the humans aren't the first direct target. I mean, eventually they are. They poison the LLMs so that then when the humans go to get information, it's, given a particular malformed disinformation angle on it. That just blows my mind that we're there. There's another definition you may come across called artificial general intelligence. And this means the system or service capable of performing almost any intellectual task that a human being can. So that would be, you've got an AI, I guess a single AI that can do almost anything that any normal human can do, acting as a human. So they're not just doing, playing chess or go better or something like that, but they're able to outperform, most intellectual tasks, anything that an average human being can do. We already have AIs that are passing advanced certification tests like the medical exams and the legal bar exam and things like that. So we already have AIs that are able to perform intellectual tasks like a human, but artificial general intelligence is where you get this. It's a more broad type of intelligence where it can do a lot more things, kind of like a human can do. So that's something, artificial general intelligence. Um, Generative AI or Gen AI, that is AI. That's an LLM that takes in the all that information and data and then can output newly original content like new text, images, audio, video. A lot of people now write that way. Say, I want to write an article on, let's say, agentic AI, and you can ask an LLM, write me an article on agentic AI, and it will create this really long complex article. Or you can say, people use generative AI to make, like synthetic fake people, like deep fakes. That's certainly probably going to be a big component of agentic AI. Deep fakes, that's again, an LLM, a generative AI using LLM that creates fake people, fake pictures, fake audio, that can possibly fool people.
I'm the supposedly famous Bill Gates, but I'm only famous because I listen to what this guy, Roger Grimes, tells me. Without him, I'm a nerd begging for dollars on the street.
I created that on Hedra AI, which I'll talk about again in a minute. It took me about 2 or 3 minutes to create. I had to download a picture of Bill Gates that Hedra would take. A lot of AI deepfake sites try to prevent you from using celebrity photos and things like that. But I found an older black and white photo of Bill Gates, put it in there. It didn't recognize it as Bill Gates, thank goodness. But then I was able to clone Bill Gates's voice. I downloaded a video audio of him talking and cloned his voice and then imported it into Hedra to create this image. Let me say that anybody can do that. Anybody. I'm not a great AI person, but anybody can go into a generative AI site. There's hundreds to thousands of them, and all you need is a picture of somebody, 6 seconds to maybe 60 seconds of audio of them. So just find one conversation they're having or call them on the phone and talk to them, act like you're trying to sell them something, get their voice. And then you can create a deep fake generative AI audio video of them saying and doing anything. And it's, for free. It will take you longer to sign up for the free account on Hedra than it will for you to create your first deep fake audio video. It's just kind of scary these days. Another term to know is super artificial general intelligence, and that is an AI that finally surpasses human intelligence in all aspects including cognitive abilities, problem solving, creativity, and emotional understanding. That last one kind of bothers me. I'm like, can an AI truly duplicate the human emotions, things like love and being ashamed of something. I guess so, but it just seems like a further stretch. But again, we already have AI doing some things better than a human can do, playing chess, playing Chinese Go, or protein folding. Protein folding, AIs have been able to figure out all the possible proteins that we have in the world, and it's going to lead to incredible medicines and solutions that we cannot imagine right now. And AI has already done that. But the idea of super artificial general intelligence, you have this super creative artificial intelligence that can do, can surpass human intelligence in all aspects of things. It's kind of wild. I've been hearing that it's going to be here any time now. There's um, a lot of people that think that we'll have super artificial general intelligence within a couple of years, and then other people saying it will never happen. Who knows? Who knows? But I would say that, again, we've got artificial intelligence today that still has a problem, making a picture of a full glass of wine or people with just normal fingers. We're still trying to get artificial intelligence worked out. We're still, we're not to artificial general intelligence yet, where you have an AI that can equate, simulate a regular average human intelligence. We're certainly, I don't think, close to super artificial general intelligence in all things. I think in certain areas, mathematics and genetics and things like that, it's going to quickly far exceed what humans can do right now. But how long till we have one that can do it in all aspects? I don't know. But you do have some very intelligent people like the creator of NVIDIA and ChatGPT and stuff saying, it's only years away, which is kind of scary to think of. Agentic, if you hear the term agentic, it just really means agents. Almost all software really can be considered to be agent software. Your browser is a software agent of you that's operating out on the internet. It even sends something called a user agent string every time you connect to a website. But agent in general, especially as we use it with agentic AI, and let me say, that's not a term I heard a year or so ago, but I'm hearing it every day now, agentic. So it just means using agents. And that, in general, the way I'll define it is say it's a software or service that uses separate standalone but cooperating modules to get to a common goal. So you have these standalone modules that could do whatever they need to do on their own, but they can also be led by a director or orchestrating agent to meet a particular common goal. Like I like to say, like a real world allegory is, when people build houses or buildings, you could build your house yourself maybe, or you could hire one person that could build your house. But most houses are built by hiring a construction manager or general contractor. Then it oversees all these other specialized people like the roofers and plumbers and electricians and painters and people that put in your flooring, and you have inspectors from the city, and people that build the walls and the roofs and the floors and put in the windows. They're all separate teams, and they're really good at what they do, but they're being led by that director or orchestrator agent, which a construction manager or general contractor GC, and they end up building this beautiful house, right? That is usually going to be far better quality, far better done, and faster done than if one person did it themselves. Very difficult for one person to be a super big expert. So when you hear of agentic AI, and here's a mock agentic AI template, you always have this orchestrator, director agent at the top. That's the one that gets fed the goals by hopefully a human, although it could be another AI or another system. But the orchestrator agent has the goals, and it helps all the rest of the agents cooperate to try to meet that particular goal. And again, maybe just a kind of a generic agentic AI. You have something that is, searches the internet to find things or searches the environment it's in. You have an agent that does analysis for something that makes decisions, something that outputs something, something that does research, something that does the communications and encrypts the communications and the agentic AI bots so people can't see what they are, and so on and so on. You have this, again, this collective group of agents that is all working together towards a common goal, including, again, the agent will update itself, and the orchestrator agent will help them to get to the common goal. And then the human being tells the orchestrator agent or director agent, this is what I'm trying to do. And then it goes off and it does it. A good example would be like today, if you're keeping let's say you have a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet and you keep your home budget on it. If you're like me, you open up Excel, you have to put in your formula, you have to figure out what the budget's going to look like, and then you put in the formulas and you put in data and you do testing. Some of the formulas don't work and you got to go back and fix your formula as well. The idea of agentic AI is that and let me say that Microsoft Excel already has with Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, it already has some AI in it or agentic AI. But in the future, pretty soon, within a year or two, you'll be able to walk up to Excel and just go, "Hey, I need you to make me a home budget." And you're not doing anything. You're not putting anything. It literally knows how to create a home budget. It interfaces with your bank account, your debit card account, your credit card account, your medical HSA card or FSA card, and it makes you a budget. And that budget is likely going to be done faster and be better than anything you could have created. Maybe you were not going to admit to yourself that you spend $200 a week going out, but it's going to look at your actual bank records and your tax records and things like that, figure out what your home budget is, and automatically update itself every year based upon your current and future projected spending habits, and do it better and faster than you could have done it. So you're just going to say, "Hey, Microsoft Excel, can you create me a home budget?" And it will just go off and do its thing and come back and tell you what your monthly budget is and update it as needed. That is agentic AI. Although you may hear this term also called autonomous agentic AI. All AI has this idea that the AI, because of its simulated human intelligence, has some additional level of self-control and decision-making capability, i.e., autonomy, over what traditional software might be. Again, with traditional software like Microsoft Excel, I'm doing everything, but with a agentic AI, Excel making a home budget, it just kind of does its thing, run and does it and fixes and hands you the result. Well, agentic AI, one of the key attributes is that it has some autonomy. If AI has no autonomy, meaning that you're just telling it how to make every decision, you're really not getting the full impact of having an LLM enabled AI product. So in most cases, agentic AI is going to have some advanced level of autonomy where it's able to kind of make its own decisions. It doesn't make its own goals, hopefully. Hopefully, it's just making its own decisions based upon the goals and desired outcome. But what could be really scary is when you start getting up to high autonomous AI, meaning where you just say like, "Go patch my systems," or something like that. You have to be, that's given a lot of trust to an AI. AI would need a lot of trust and a lot of permissions to patch everything in your environment, not only your computers and your laptops and your routers and your switches and your phones and everything, but it would have to have all the login names and passwords to be able to patch them, and it'd have to be trusted to patch them in a way that wouldn't make your systems go down. And it's done during, times of, that's not going to disrupt your business. So it can be a lot of trust to hand to a high autonomous AI. But again, kind of the most potential scary scenario where if a AI was fully autonomous is, maybe it can even update its own goals. And we have to be careful there because there's a whole movie series called Terminator about this, where, Skynet, which is this big AI, becomes self-aware, on August 29th, 1997, and decides, "Oh, I need to kill all the humans." So, we're going to see autonomous agentic AI come out. It's already coming out, and it's, right now, most of them have little to no autonomy, but they're going to, over time become more and more autonomous. And then, potentially we'll see some things that are fully autonomous and just running around the internet and running around your environment and running around your car and running around your house. And hopefully we have the trust issues figured out and we have the bugs figured out, because we don't want like a CrowdStrike like shutdown where 5 million computers are shut down all at once because somebody's autonomous agentic AI had a bug in it or made the right decision or didn't make the right decision. But this is coming. So this is a term you need to understand: autonomous agentic AI. And again, the way that I define it, and this is just me defining autonomous agentic AI, other people have different definitions. I think my definition's better than most of them out there. I've seen some really terrible definitions of autonomous agentic AI that looks like it was written by AI and could be applied to anything, including a glass of wine. But this is what I say, that these are requirements for something to be considered autonomous agentic AI. First of all, it has to have LLM, a large language model AI around it. It has to have cooperative agents, so all these standalone agents that could work without being part of a larger piece of software or service, but does try to cooperate and solve a particular goal, has some level of autonomy to perform what you've told it to do, and really, and this is super important, that it decides, creates, or does something really based upon the algorithms and the LLM. I mean, you have regular traditional software that is trying to solve something and do something, like maybe do your taxes or create your home budget. But the difference between autonomous agentic AI is that it has some level of autonomy, and it can update what it decides based upon what it's learning. The AI enabled LLM is allowing it to use data and the things it finds to update itself and make decisions about how it's going to do something. A good example would be maybe you're telling, like I have, let's say I use QuickBooks today to do my taxes, right? And I got to go in there and put all my numbers in there and that sort of stuff. But in the future, autonomous agentic AI, if it was in, let's say, Intuit, QuickBooks or something, or TurboTax or whatever, you could say, hey, do my taxes. And it kind of runs off and does your taxes. And it's making decisions for you. Like instead of asking you, do you want to apply married filing joint or whatever versus married, it just does it. Or it knows whether or not it has to download and do a particular form. But not only that, but if you tell it, hey, I want you to do my taxes and I want you to be fairly aggressive in giving me tax breaks and a tax refund, it could go across the internet, let's say, and download different types of policies and handling of your taxes from different tax people, and then over time, as how the different people treat and do taxes, it might update its decision on whether to take something, as a charitable distribution or something like that. So, that's autonomous agentic AI, involves, AI enabled LLM, cooperative agents that are working towards a common goal, some level of autonomy beyond traditional software, and it's deciding, creating, or doing something. And another important point is today's AIs show things, but in the future, AI will create and do things. And by that, I mean, is like, let's think about AI used in coding. In coding today, we're like, hey, AI, I need to make a website that sells sewing machines or sells shoes. And the AI will print out the code to you, will allow you to review it, but it doesn't make the website for you. But in the future, you could say, AI, I want to make a website that sells shoes, and it does everything, right? Maybe it even contracts the people to get the shoes and deliver the shoes and creates a website and is selling, an advertising campaign. The future AI is, right now we're in this, kind of stage one where it's returning stuff to us. All right, say, hey, tell me how I can make a profit selling shoes on Amazon. Versus in the future, you say, AI, I want to make profit selling shoes, on Amazon, and it does. It sets up the accounts, buys the shoes, figure out a business plan, and implements everything. And we're certainly going to have more robots in the future, so we're going to have a lot more robotic stuff that is AI, that has AI enabled, right? That autonomous agentic AI doing things for us, which hopefully that's a good thing. And again, we don't end up in Terminatorville someday. So now, if you take everything we've just learned about agentic AI, autonomous agentic AI, now we can apply that to malware and ransomware in particular. And let me say that, when, in October 2022, when ChatGPT came out from OpenAI, we immediately saw that, hey, it was going to be able to be used by the bad guys to create these really, good looking spear phishing emails. For years we were able to have the luxury of saying, hey, if you get a phishing email, it may have typos. A lot of times these phishing emails were created by people that were not native language speakers in the country they were attacking. But malicious LLMs allow them to craft these really good phishing messages and videos and stuff like that. But this is old news. That's been going on since 2023. So we started off when we had like AI enabled deep fakes. We had fake emails, fake images, fake audio, We get fake video of people and then fake video of real people. I kind of showed you that with the Bill Gates type thing. But now we're just starting to see the phase where we can get fake real time video of fake people and fake real time video of real people. I'll show you, but literally it's very easy for someone to create this real time fake image that is talking and responding to you. Pretty incredible. And we already have automated AI deepfake malware. We're going to talk about that. And then what we don't have yet, but is coming soon, is autonomous agentic AI deepfake malware and ransomware. We don't have it yet. But a lot of people believe we could have it this year. I think it might be a couple of years off, but some people are saying be worried about it now. But in general, we know today that AI can be used to create very realistic phishing attacks, very good AI deep fakes, and it can be used to attack people and respond to victims and create fake IDs and all that sort of stuff. Thousands of tools on the internet exist, a lot of them free. It'll take you longer to sign up for the free account. Some of them that I pay for cost me $5 or $10 a month for some of the better ones out there. Like Hedra, you can get some free, you can use it to create a couple of free fake identities. But then if you want, to create more than 10 a month or something, you have to buy a $10 subscription. But just know that all the AI and AI enabled deep fake tools are just getting better and better and better. And it just blows me away every day when I see something that it couldn't do that it now can do. Although AI in general still has a terrible time trying to get the number of fingers right on somebody, and there's a lot of things you still trick it, but over time, those what we call these errors, we call them hallucinations when AI, does some sort of weird, comes back something kind of weird. We say, oh, it had a hallucination, it had something kind of, those are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller over time as the models get better and better and better. But here, here's again another example of an AI deep fake that I created on Hedra.
I'm a huge fan of Roger Grimes's latest book, Fighting Phishing. It's a game changer. We could have solved more of the X-Files had we followed its advice. I'm not sure why it isn't on the bestseller lists. Stop what you're doing and buy a copy now.
Yeah, when I first started getting AI, I put aside what I thought was going to be a weekend to create my first deep AI fake video. I put aside 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. I went to Hedra as my first site, and 30 seconds later, I had this. I just uploaded a picture of Gillian Anderson. I love her from the X-Files. And I literally typed in my text, and then it generated this video of her. And I was just amazed when I hit the generate video. That actually did take a couple of minutes, but I mean, it took me 30 seconds to upload her picture and type in some text, and then 2 minutes later, I had this deep AI fake video and had the rest of my weekend to do things and go boating. So I was pretty excited about that. I even went to explore some more. I went to a site called Acool that could do face swapping. So I want to see, could I swap my face on that AI video that I just created? Look at the picture. I'm kind of amazed by the way that they put my picture in Gillian Anderson's photo, because look at the picture I uploaded. It's kind of, the hair is completely different. My face is different. I'm whiter. It knew how to tan up my face, and it allowed me to create this image.
I'm a huge fan of Roger Grimes's latest book, Fighting Phishing. It's a game changer. We could have solved more of the X-Files had we followed its advice.
So, I mean, that's pretty wild. And you can also clone people's voices. You can clone your voice. In this case, I cloned my own voice. But you can, in the other deepfake video, I imported Bill Gates's voice. It literally, they want you to have at least 30 seconds of somebody's voice. I've seen them as small as 6 second clips. The longer you have of somebody's voice, the better. But I've seen 6 seconds work quite well, and up to a minute or two if you want to. But in this example, I just went to speechify.com. I imported my voice, not saying this thing. So I imported my voice and imported a video of me from some other talk I did. And then I just typed in the same thing that I had Gillian Anderson saying. And the next thing you know, even though I did not say this, this is what it sounded like.
A huge fan of Roger Grimes' latest book, Fighting Phishing. It's a game changer. We could have solved more of the X-Files had we followed.
And then I just went back and I said, well, upload that voice and put it into that video on Hedra, and I got this.
A huge fan of Roger Grimes' latest book, Fighting Phishing. It's a game changer. We could have solved more of the X-Files had we followed its advice. I'm not sure why it isn't on the...
I mean, kind of crazy, right? And let me say, anybody, you can do it. Anybody can do it. All you got to do is get a picture, upload a video, or upload audio to clone their voice, and boom, you can be on Hedra or 100 other sites creating these deep fakes. And certainly, phishers and scammers are using that. There's hundreds of stories in the media. These AI-powered fake deep fakes are now being put into the phishing kits. Here's an example, and this was a while ago, but it was saying, hey, this phishing kit, that's where, somebody pays 100, $200 to get a phishing kit that they then use to do phishing attacks against people. It said this will capture their two-factor authentication, and it will allow them, you can literally type in any text and then have it generate this, this deep AI fake for you, posing as someone's boss or parent or something like that. It was actually used a long time ago, or at the beginning of 2024, not a long time ago, but a deep fake call was used to compromise a LastPass employee. A lot of y'all may remember LastPass, which is one of the leaders in password management. One of their programmers, consultant programmers, got compromised, and again, it was because the attacker deepfake cloned the CEO of LastPass. So the programmer thought he was being called. He got a series of calls and texts and a voicemail that had an audio deepfake of somebody impersonating the CEO over WhatsApp. So he interfaced with the CEO over WhatsApp, but it really wasn't the CEO. But that ultimately led to that contract employee being compromised, and then deepfakes accounts and ultimately deepfake customer passwords were compromised. So that was pretty wild. Probably the biggest one that everybody heard of is that one guy was invited to a fake Zoom call with what he thought were his boss and team members, but the only person real on that Zoom call was him. So he was called or texted and told by his boss to be on this Zoom call. He gets on there, he thinks it's all of his coworkers and his boss, and they convince them together to wire $25 million in a way that wouldn't be blocked by his company. His boss literally told him, hey, I need you to wire this money, and I need you to do it in a way that bypasses company bylaws and everything. And he got fooled and sent $25 million to the attacker. And let me say, back then, when this $25 million scam thing happened last year, when the employee asked the boss, he was asking him questions because he was feeling uncomfortable about violating company policy and procedures to send this $25 million. The attacker didn't have the capability, the AI deepfake capability to respond in real time as his boss. So he just made the Zoom call seem like it got really slow. And then he ended the call, pretended to end the call, and he texted the guy, said, hey, you see what we need? And he was able to text him. But he didn't yet have the capability to respond in real time. But now we have that. This is KnowBe4's Perry Carpenter, which is really up on this. He's got he's got his own equipment at home, his own laptop, and he can literally fake and impersonate anybody in real time. He can be anyone. And there's sites on the internet where you can say, I want to be George Clooney. I want to be, some famous actress. And immediately everything you say and do is going to be as that person. Here's him pretending to be one of our most famous actors in our Inside Man series.
But let's say I'm in the middle of a demo or in the middle of real life and I want to do something strange. Well, I could just show up as Mark Shepard in a completely different office. Or back in demo land, I can show myself talking to camera. I can show myself as Mark Shepard with, at the very top, my own office background.
So he can literally, he's like holding a Zoom call with himself. Today anybody can realistically hold a real-time deepfake AI conversation with anybody. And this it was a little bit jerky back when he did this, but that was like half a year ago. These days it is really seamless. And again, there's services all over the internet. I don't know if they're perfect, but they're close enough perfect that they're going to fool a whole lot of people that aren't aware of it. And it really is an industry now. There literally is malware that does it, that they have to steal your biometric attribute. So whatever attribute you use to, like, like some banks say that they want fingerprints, some want facial recognition, whatever it is, voice print. My stock, stock accounts say, oh, we need your voice or whatever it is, they're going to steal that from you somehow. They're going to call you to get your voice, or they'll look at you online. Somehow they'll get your picture. Then they create the deep fake. A lot of times they have a third step, which is to emulate your device. Your bank knows that, what type of device you use to connect to it. Are you always coming from a Windows machine or an Apple machine or Google Chrome machine to use Edge, or to use, an Apple browser or whatever. And then they use virtual camera software that allows it to inject the deep fake they just created into a virtualized camera and then perform the deep fake attack. And let me see, there's already been for like almost or over a year now, malware that does this. Here's an example of the first one I ever knew about, but this is the Trojan used in Asia. And at first it was for iPhones, now they have it for Androids, but it's got to be tricked to getting on your phone, this malware, just like, any other person, social engineered, unpatched or whatever. But then it steals your face. It actually creates a fake kind of Apple iFace prompt, and then the person looks at it, it captures their face, and that's enough. It creates a deep fake. It steals their bank login name and password, maybe MFA, and then it goes to the bank and says, I want to transfer all this money to another bank. And the bank's like, well, you got to do facial recognition. And it does it. I mean, and again, this was a year ago when I first read about it, well over a year ago. And now it's just been moved, and it's the future, right? If we're going to use our faces and our fingerprints and stuff to authenticate, of course, the bad guys are just going to steal that. And a lot of websites now that require, let's say, like fingerprint login and stuff, the bad guys are just capturing your fingerprint and capturing your face. And let me say, once they capture your biometric trait, your face, your fingerprint, or retina scan or whatever, what are you going to do? You're going to get a new face? You're going to get a new eyeball? Is is this pre-crime or something, that the Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where you got to get a new eyeball or something? But I can change my password, I can change my MFA, but what do you do when they steal your biometric attribute and then use that forevermore? How can any system that relies upon your biometric attribute actually trust you? As a matter of fact, Gartner last year said that Gartner predicted 30% of enterprises will consider identity verification authentication solutions unreliable in isolation, meaning you need to use a second factor or something like that, due to AI generated deepfakes. What I want to know is, why is only 30% of enterprises worried about this? It should be 100%. There should be 100% of enterprises that consider standalone identity verification authentication solutions. You should always have to do two-factor. U.S. government says that if you use biometric as one of your attributes, you need to use a hardware token as the second token to trust it, which really means they trust the hardware token, not the biometric attribute, because they'll take the hardware token alone. But anyways, interesting stuff. Is agentic AI being used in ransomware today? No, but we're very, very close. It's AI for sure is being used in ransomware, mostly, again, to create these fake ransomware model or fake ransomware, messages and phishing messages and stuff. That's already on target right now. Lots of, most of the phishing kits already have some sort of AI deep fake, tools in there. And these kits only cost, $150, $900 a month. And they have these AI infused voice calling stuff. So it allows the customers of the phishing kit to generate voice calls to prospective targets based upon a series of prompts. And they're multi-language. They're like, oh, we have 15 languages and stuff like that. Just really wild in here. Our own research, our egress researchers found out that 82% of the phishing toolkits out there on the dark web and other forums mention deep fakes as a part of the tool. So almost all of them, 82%, and 74.8, 75% of them referenced AI in some way. And that's today. That's now, which as the time I record this, early 2025. Or April 2025. It's just, but by the end of the year, next year, it's going to be like nearly 100% or something like that. And we already know, we've had several studies to show that AI enabled phishing can outfish the human phishing attacks. Like And let me say that didn't used to be the case. It used to be that the humans kind of maintain, back in 2023, at least in this example here, in 2023, the human phishing was more effective than the AI phishing, but that is now split. And now the AI enabled created phishing is 24% more effective than the human phishing attacks. So it's made the crossover. And again, we knew this was going to be the case a couple of years ago, and now in 2025 it is. AI is more effective than humans at doing phishing attacks or simulated phishing attacks. That's just a pretty wild stat. And again, where it's going to progress to, we're already there. Everything I've talked about is already happening. But what is going to happen this year, next year, within a couple of years, is we're going to have this malicious agentic AI, where one day, instead of being led by humans, they're going to become autonomous, more autonomous than they are today, and kind of run themselves. And they will morph and update their code as needed. They're going to contain their own vulnerability scanner, look at different targets, see if there's any unpatched software or firmware. If not, it's going to then turn into a social engineering thing and socially engineer you. It's going to figure out what it needs to do to get to point A to Z to exploit you. And again, this isn't a possibility. This is what's going to happen. Is you're going to have some agentic AI malware program, could be ransomware, could be a password stealing Trojan, whatever. But basically, it's going to do everything that the hackers could do separately, but faster, right? You're going to have this director, orchestrator, agent at the top directing it all. It's going to, do target searching, depending on what its goals and objectives are. It will analyze you, figure out, are there any vulnerability, software, firmware vulnerabilities to exploit? And if not, then it goes and uses the social engineering agent. And, maybe it decides it needs to do a deep fake and pretend to be your boss. It literally is going to search and learn about you in particular, so it can craft a deep fake AI-enabled agentic attack just for you, breaks in, goes across your environment, steals data, and that sort of stuff, and does what it needs to do. And let me say, the social engineering agent, just think about this, is that, and by the way, I love this quote at the top here. This is from this actually, this is not that top one is not from Mandy. It is actually from Barracuda Networks last year. But the Barracuda Network said less than 0.1% of email attacks are spear phishing, but are involved in 66% of all successful attacks. Let that sink in again. Less than 0.1% of email attacks are spear phishing, meaning targeting a particular person or group, but are involved in 2/3 of successful phishing attacks. Well, a future social engineering agent is just going to search the web, learn everything about you. It's going to search you about how you work with your company, what are your hobbies and things like that. Then it will construct a spear phishing attack just for you that's going to have a much higher chance of success. It's going to use your existing relationships within your company, within your family, within your business partners and your group memberships. Maybe you belong to a cat club or something, and it will use that against you to try to spear phish you. And that's coming, right? We're going to have this agentic AI that, again, does this attack analysis, tries to figure out whether it can break in using vulnerability, software, firmware vulnerabilities, whether it's got to socially engineer you. Then it breaks in, looks and exfiltrates the data, looks to see if it can leverage attacks to hit your partners and friends using your email addresses, and then encrypts and does whatever it needs to do. This will absolutely happen. This is coming. This is where ransomware is going to go. The only question is when it's going to happen. And again, there's a lot of people, including MIT, that thinks that it could be this year, 2025. I think we're going to be a couple of years away from that whole vision I talked about, but certainly we're going to see more and more AI-enabled and autonomous AI agents used in all malware and ransomware over time. So I know I painted potentially possibly a scary picture here, but I want to tell you, defense-wise, all is not lost. The good guys invented AI in 1955. The good guys have been using AI longer. The good guys are spending more money on it. Nearly every cybersecurity defense already has AI. And if it doesn't, it will have AI. We've been using AI at KnowBe4 for over 7 years, been around. So again, all is not lost. For the first time ever, the good guys are kind of ahead. Usually the bad guys are on the forefront of technology and the good guys are trying to catch up. In this case, for the first time ever in my 36-year career, the good guys are ahead. We're the ones that are spending the money, exploring what AI can do, and it's the bad guys taking a year or two to pick it up. But the future is going to be this good AI enabled bot versus this bad AI enabled bot, and the best algorithm will win. That is kind of the guaranteed to happen within a couple of years. The future of cybersecurity is good AI bot versus bad AI enabled bot, and the best algorithm wins. But remember, there's a lot of good stuff coming from Agentic AI. It is going to help us make faster budgets and faster work and make me a website and, do this. And it's going to be a whole lot of good stuff coming out of it. It's going to increase the automation of tasks and just make us all super efficient. AI is really starting to do that already, and that's just going to improve. Agentic AI is going to have a positive, transformative impact on businesses. And again, we've been using AI, we call it ADA now, but we've been using that for over 7 years. And we do know already that if you use our AI-enabled tools, that you're able to lower human risk more than if you only do the human admin. Let me say that again. We already have the data to show that if you use our AI-enabled ADA, that it reduces human risk more than if you just used a human admin alone. Like, for example, if you allow ADA to pick your simulated phishing templates to phish your users, it's more likely to successfully phish them. And when you do that, when someone fails the phishing test, you're able to give them more education, and that means your company will actually be should be that they're safer. And we do know that our clients that use our system are 8 times less likely to be compromised than customers that don't use our system. So it's all good in there. So what are your defenses overall? Education, education. You've got to tell people about all these deep fake AI attacks coming in agentic AI. Although I'm a huge fan of Perry Carpenter's book, Fake. That is, if you haven't read this book, you should. It really tells you a lot of smart things. Like one of the things Perry says that I really love is he's like, don't focus on whether something coming in your inbox is or isn't a deep fake. Every tool we use is going to have AI enabled in it. Like when you post something on your social media, it's going to be AI enabled. So everything coming in is going to be kind of AI. Asking, is this AI enabled image, isn't the right question. Everything's going to AI enabled. Focus on the message. If a scammer is trying to talk you out of your money or get ransomware in your environment, they still have to trick you. And that's the same whether you're using deep fake or not. And this right here, if I only had 20 seconds to teach people how do you stop these new agentic AI attacks or any type of scam, it would be this. 99% of attacks, agentic AI or not, fall under these 2 characteristics. The message arrives unexpectedly. You were not, and I don't care how it arrived, whether it was social media or in the mail or email or website or somebody in person or a chat or WhatsApp. If the message is unexpected, you were not expecting it, and the sender is asking you to do something that you've not done before for the first time, at least for that sender, whoever they're proposing to be. Like if someone's saying, I need you to go to Walmart and get gift cards to play the IRS, probably should research that first before it. Teach yourself this. I teach myself that if I look at an email that arrives unexpectedly and it's asking me to do something I've never done before, I have myself personally, I have what's called a huh moment. And I've taught myself that anytime I go, huh, I slow down and I research this, not using any information within the email, the contact. You don't call the phone number or go to the link in the message. You call the person directly, you call the company directly, you go to the company's real website. But if I had anything to tell people about how to stop 99% of phishing attacks with or without AIs, if the message arrives unexpectedly, it's asking you to do something you've never done before, at least for that sender, research it using an alternate safe method before performing the action. That's what I would say. So again, this comes from Perry's book, Fake, which I just love. It says, nearly everything in the future is going to be AI enabled. So, trying to determine if something has AI enabled in it or something, and they have all like these AI detection tools. They're all full of false positives. It's easy to fool them, false positives and false negatives. Don't concentrate on that. Concentrate on the message. What is the person trying to motivate you to do? And if it seems like something that could harm your interest, maybe, research before performing. Also, I'm a very big believer that for your family and possibly even in business is establish a safe word. Like my kids growing up knew that if anyone ever came to their school or while they were playing and said, "Hey, your mom and dad want me to pick you up," that person had to know this pre-agreed upon silly safe word. Is a word that nobody would use in real life, but it was a word that all my family knew. All my girls, my three girls, my son, and my wife. And let me say, they kind of laugh at me now. You know, we never had to use the safe word, but my daughters now teach their children, their sons and daughters, this safe word as well. And I think that's a good thing to do. So if someone calls you claiming to be, you know, your child, or claiming to have your child, or torturing you, these fake kidnappings and things like that, say, hey, before I'm going to send you money, I need to, you know, I need to talk to my kid and know the safe word, and agree ahead of time. If they don't know the safe word, you're not going to, you know, let them go. And potentially do the same thing for business. Before I do a $25 million transfer, I need to know the safe word. So I think it's a good thing to do. With that said, my time's up. My name is Roger Grimes. If you have any questions on this, feel free to give me an email at rogerg@knowbefore.com, and keep up the good fight.